Hi, good evening. Hello, hi, good evening. Hi, good evening.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening, sir.
Hi, good evening. So I think we discussed regarding posting period and global parameter in our previous class, and also we maintained the controlling area. What is the purpose of using controlling area and all these things we discussed, right? Maybe I think I did configuration also. I'll check with that. I thought I did. I think I explained regarding this configuration, right? Yes. Fine. Okay. In financial accounting, still I need to maintain some configurations, like so I need to maintain the configurations of vendors. Who is vendor? Vendor is nothing but our goods supplier. Okay, so we are going to purchase the material with vendors, and he is going to supply the goods to us, right? So that is what we call as vendor. To create the vendor, we require some configurations. To create the vendor, we require configurations that we are going to maintain in financial accounting as well as in logistics part also. In logistics general also, we can do that configurations. First, we will go with financial accounting. Then I will show how to create vendors in logistics general. There is a module called logistics general. There we can create vendor also. Okay, so first vendor group and vendor master. So what is vendor group? Vendor group means we can bifurcate by location, like domestic vendor, or import vendor, or one-time vendor. Domestic vendor, foreign vendor, or import vendor, and one-time vendor. So domestic vendor means vendors which is located inside India, we consider, or we are going to add in this group, and vendors from outside India we can add to import vendor group. One-time means one-time transactions, like we do some rare transaction with our vendors. So on that time, all that kind of vendors we are going to add in one-time account group. Okay, then vendor master. What is vendor master? Vendor master is, by using this group, we are going to create the individual vendors. That is what we call as vendor master. So who is going to create vendor group and vendor master? So consultant used to create vendor group, and end users used to create vendor master. End user used to create vendor master. As a consultant, we never used to create vendor master. This is not our work. Okay, this is not our work. We are going to create the vendor group. By using that vendor group, end user used to create the vendor. If we are not creating, if consultant not creating vendor master, then what is the use of vendor group? What is the use of vendor group? Vendor group is controls the field status in vendor masters. So it controls the field status in vendor master. So what is field status or what is fields? While creating vendors or while creating individual vendors, so we come across with many fields. Like general data. There we are going to input our vendor name, vendor address, then GST number, bank details of vendor, right? We need to pay the amount, right? Bank details, then telephone numbers, all these things, all basic informations or basic fields we can see in general data. So while creating vendor, okay, we come across with many fields. Like in general data or in general data group, we have this kind of fields like vendor name, vendor address, vendor, GST number, bank details, all these things will comes under vendor, in general data. Like that we are having one more group like company code data. So in company code data or in company code group, we are having many fields again, like reconciliation account, then cash management group. I'll let you know what is this. Then terms of payments, tolerance groups, then interest indicator or interest calculation, like that, then dunning. So these are all main fields which comes under company code data. Like that, we are having one more data called purchasing data or purchase data. So in purchase data, we are going to maintain some fields called currency, in which currency we are going to deal with my vendor. That is very important. Currency, then again terms of payments, in code terms. So all these things we can see in 1 minute. Purchasing data. So these fields we can control by using this group. So controls, what are controls we are having? Like suppress or hide, required, optional, and display. These are the 4 controls we are having while creating group. By using this control, we can control this field. How? Like if I am going to select vendor name as hide or suppress entry, what will happen? While creating vendor, end user will not get this field because it is selected as suppress, right? Suppress, because this field will be get hided. Okay, then if I am going to select vendor name as required entry, then what will happen? While creating vendor master record, end user must and should input that field, otherwise system will not allow him to save the data. Because that field has been selected as required entry, right? Then if I am going to select name one as or vendor name as optional, if I am going to select vendor name as optional, then what will happen? While creating vendor master data, end user, they may input the vendor name or they can skip that field. They can skip that field. That is optional. Then if I am going to select vendor name as a display, then we can able to see the data. We cannot do any changes or we cannot copy that, only display purpose. We are having 4 controls. So according to my requirement, we can control the fields, because consultant and end user, they are not working together, because the location will be different. Say we are in Bangalore, my end user or my client may be in Mumbai, so we are not going to work together. In this way I can control the field statuses. So on the basis of requirement of my client, I can select, or on the basis of requirement of vendor, that also we can change here. So I will discuss one by one. So while creating vendor name, address, bank details, everything I need to input. This is the basic information regarding vendor I need to input in general data. Then in complete code data, what is reconciliation account? Why we require reconciliation, and what is the reconciliation? Why it is there in complete code data? Reconciliation means it's a comparison, right? We require or we need to compare with many data. Like assume that we are having bank account with you, and as well as you are maintaining the credit card. You want to compare with these 2 data, right? You need to compare with these 2 data. Why? Because any hidden charges is maintained by or levied by bank, you need to check, right? So that's the reason we need to reconcile. Or if you are having a company and if you are having a bank account, then you need to compare these 2 accounts with each other. Any hidden charges is there, all these things we need to check it up. So that is what we call as reconciliation. So reconciliation with vendors, we are having so many transactions, like with vendors. So why I am telling reconciliation? Reconciliation, we are comparing with each other. Comparison with 2 or more objects to get one output. We require one result. For that we are going to compare with 2 or more objects, right? So like that, with vendors we are having many transactions. Like we are going to purchase the material with him. So if it is material is okay, then we are going to keep with that material with us. If that material is not good or it's a damage, then what we do? We are going to return that, and after that we are going to maintain the payment for my vendor. Then again we are going to purchase with vendor. Say on 1st of January we purchase something like 1 lakh worth of goods we purchase. On 3rd of January we return some 10,000 value of goods. Then we made a payment of 50,000. Then again we purchase 1,25,000 value of goods. So this is what we call as transaction, right? This is what we called as transactions. See, we purchase something and we return some amount, right? So we need to compare with this data, right? Why? Because this one is minus and this one is plus, right? Again this one is minus and this one is plus, right? So I need to add and subtract all these things. So this thing we cannot do manually. See, so if I am going to maintain the total of this, I am getting this output, right? 1,65,000 I need to pay to my vendor. these small transactions we did manually, right? But in real time we are having so many vendors, we cannot maintain these things manually. So how much we purchase, how much we return, how much we maintain the payment, after that when we purchase and how much we purchase again, we need to reconcile, right? This thing we cannot do manually. The system will take care of all these things. For that we need to create one reconciliation account. Reconciliation account will be maintained by finance consultant. For using this reconciliation we are going to assign to my vendor. While creating vendor, we are going to assign. So here in this, in our practice, we not created any reconciliation account, or ledger we not created, right? But we copied some data. So hope you remember. So in our first classes or in our previous classes, while starting the configurations, we discussed we require all this parameter, right? In that ledger also we copied. Ledger also we copied. Okay, so system or in our company code, reconciliation account will be there. We can use that reconciliation account and we can assign reconciliation account to my vendor. While creating vendor, we need to assign. Otherwise, what will happen now? System will not do any reconciliation for you. You need to do the reconciliation manually. That is very difficult. In our practice, we can maintain, but in real time, we are having a lot of vendors, maybe 1,000, 2,000 vendors we are having in this company, but we cannot do reconciliation manually. That's the reason what we do. We are going to assign one reconciliation account which is maintained by the finance consultant or finance person, and we are going to use that reconciliation account. System will take care of all these kind of transactions and will get one output. That is the meaning of reconciliation. Comparison with two or more objects to get one output. With vendor, we are having many transactions like this, right? Then cash management group. Cash management group. So what is cash management group? Cash management group cash management group. So cash management group is nothing but bifurcation between domestic and import vendor. Like if you are maintaining domestic customer, then I need to assign domestic payment, and A2 is for import payment, and AC is for one-time payment. So there is a predefined cash management group is there in the system. We can use that one. Then terms of payments. What is terms of payments? Terms of payments means time or duration given to make the payment to vendor. Okay. Terms of payment. Terms of payments. Time or duration given by vendor to make the payment. To make the payment. So terms of payment. Say example, if you purchase on 1st of January, within that 30 days or with 15 days, within 20 days or within 45 days, you need to clear that payment, right? So that is called as terms of payments or condition on payments. Then tolerance group. What is tolerance group? Tolerance means tolerance group nothing but setting the limit on the basis of vendor potential. So what does this mean? It means, say, setting the limit means if your vendor is having capacity to deliver the goods of 1000 quantity. Say vendor potential is 1000 quantity. Assume that 1000 quantity. If you order 5000 quantity, can you able to deliver that? No, it is not possible, right? So 1000 quantity is a potential, right? So we need to order within that quantity. We can, on the basis of their potential, we can set the limit. That is what we call as tolerance limit. Okay, then interest calculation. So interest will be maintained by vendor himself. So because if I am going to make the payment in, say, assume that your vendor has given 30 days time to clear the payment, but I am not able to clear the payment within that time. So he can charge interest on that. So that is what called as interest. Interest indicator or interest calculation. For late payment, vendor can charge interest. Okay, so interest. Then dunning. So dunning, usually dunning, what is the meaning of dunning is? Dunning is a payment reminder notice. Dunning is a payment reminder notice. Usually dunning is going to maintain for customer in real time. We are going to maintain the dunning for customer. So on the payment, on the late payment, say as I told you, terms of payments is we can maintain for customer also. On the late payment, we can send a reminder to him. From company, we can send a reminder notice to him. It is not a legal notice. We can send a reminder notice to him. Okay, so that is what we call as dunning. Dunning can be maintained for vendor. Dunning can be maintained for vendor also. So in real time, all vendor payment will be done by finance department automatically. For payment payment made to vendor, that reminder purpose we can maintain dunning for vendor also. Assume that you made the payment from finance department. Finance department has made the payment, but we didn't know it is paid or not. So for that purpose, we can maintain dunning for vendor also. But maximum case in real time, the dunning will be maintained for customers only. Okay, so this is the thing. Customers for reminder, we can use payment done to vendor or not. For that purpose, we can set the dunning for vendor also. Usually, it will not be maintained for vendor, but it is possible to maintain. Then currency, in which currency we are going to deal with in vendor, that also I can mention. Then terms of payments, as we discussed on the basis of customer, on the basis of vendor, he can set the terms and condition on his payment. That is terms of payment. Then what is the in-code terms? In-code terms nothing but international commercial terms. International commercial terms. International commercial terms. What does it mean? Say you are going to purchase the material on 1st of January. So purchased worth of rupees 1 lakh. Okay, so we order, not purchase, we order for material worth of rupees 1 lakh to vendor, right? So we are going to post the purchase order vendor. So vendor is in Delhi. Assume that vendor is in Delhi, and we are in Bangalore, right? We are in Bangalore. Okay, so from Delhi to Bangalore, he need to transport the material, right? But he need to pay the transportation charge. He need to pay, or we need to pay 5,000 rupees. Need to pay the freight charges, right? Freight charges we need to pay. So this is what we call as cost, and this one is freight. So total how much I need to pay? 1,05,000, right? This 5,000 who is going to pay? That is what we call as in-code terms. So what will happen now? Sometimes vendor is not, sometimes assume that if vendor is not maintained any term in-code terms, then what will happen? At the time of delivery, he may ask for delivery charges. It is not highlighted in the purchase order. So it will be very much complicated on the time of delivery. That's the reason what SAP tells us is that at the time of creation of vendor, we need to clearly tell that the cost and other things will be paid by whom. So in SAP we are having standard in-code terms, like SAP is maintained in-code terms of CFR, cost and freight. There is a in-code terms cost and freight. What does it mean? Cost means, as I told you, this is a amount, and freight means transportation charges that will be paid by who is going to purchase that material. So the purchaser is to pay that cost and freight. Then one more thing, or one more in-code terms is a CIF, cost, insurance and freight. Cost, insurance and freight means the cost and insurance and other charges like freight that will be paid by purchaser. Like some vendor is going to give some free on board. Free on board means there is no freight charges. And COD, that is cash on delivery. Cash on delivery. One minute. Hello. ಇಲ್ಲೇ ಇದ್ದೀನಿ, ಆಫೀಸಲ್ಲಿ ಇದ್ದೀನಿ. ಓಕೆ. Okay, cash on delivery. This kind of in-code terms is there. At the time of creation of vendor, we need to tell, or we need to assign this in-code terms to that vendor on the basis of his way of transportation or way of delivery, like that. Okay. So this kind of data we can control by using this vendor groups. This is not mandatory to maintain like this. This is not mandatory to do like this. If you are having a domestic client or domestic vendors, you can maintain. If you are not having import, then you can don't create this import vendor group, and usually like this we are going to create in the system. Okay, then the thing is that who is going to create the vendors in real time, because vendor is required to finance department, vendor is required to department. So in finance people also create vendors by using general data plus company code data. These two data they are going to use to create the vendor. And there is a T code called FK01. By using T code FK01, they are going to create the vendors. F stands for finance, K stands for F stands for finance, K stands for vendor, 01 is creation. Then people also create vendors by using general data plus purchasing data, purchase data. The T code is MK01. Okay, the vendor which created in FK01, that will be limited to finance department or finance module. No other modules can use that vendor. Then vendor which created in MK01, that will be limited to department, no other department or modules can use that vendor. Use that vendor. Okay, so we are having one more type of thing. Centralized. To creation of vendor, centralized. Centrally we can create the vendor. In this centralized vendor creations, we are going to use general data plus company code data and purchase data. By using all these three data, we can create the vendor in T code XK01. Okay. Vendors which created in XK01, that is called as centralized creation vendor, centralized creation of vendor that can be used in any modules. That can be used in any modules. So in our practice or in our class, we are going to learn how to create vendor by using MK01 and XK01. We are not going to use FK01 because it is purely for financial accounting purpose, right? Okay, then what are all configurations I need to maintain? What are all configurations I need to maintain here is, as a consultant, configurations first one, define vendor account groups. So here I am going to create 3 groups, as I told you in our previous 10-15 minutes back, I told you we are going to create 3 groups. Like my company code is RP, RPDV is domestic vendor group. And second one is RPIV, that is import vendor group. RPOV, one time vendor group. So 3 groups I am going to create. Okay, reconnect, we'll discuss.
ಏನು ಪ್ರಾಬ್ಲಮ್ ಇಲ್ಲ, ಅದೆಲ್ಲ ಏನು ಪ್ರಾಬ್ಲಮ್ ಆಗಲ್ಲ.
ಸರ್ ಇವಾಗ ಫ್ಯಾಸ್ಟ್ ಆಗೋವರೆಗೂ ಟೈಮ್ ಇದೆ ನಿಮಗೆ, ಸೊ ನೀವೇನಾದ್ರು ಸಜೆಸ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀರಾ ಯಾವ
ಏನು ಅಂಥದ್ದೇನು ಬೇಡ, ಏನು ಬಿಗ್ ಅಕೌಂಟ್ಸ್ ನೋಡಿ ಅಷ್ಟೇ, ಏನೇನಿದೆ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು ನೋಡಿ ಅಷ್ಟೇ.
ನೋಟ್ಸ್ ಇದೆ ಕೊಡ್ಬೋದಾ ಸರ್?
ನಾನು ಫಾರ್ವರ್ಡ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀನಿ ಬಿಡಿ, ನಾನು ಮಾಡ್ತೀನಿ. ಹಾಂ, ವಾಟ್ಸಪ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀನಿ. ಅದು 1000 rupees ಚಾರ್ಜ್ ಪೇ ಮಾಡಿ. ನಂಬರ್ ಹೇಳ್ತೀನಿ ಬೇರೆ 988 988 699 77 45 45. ಆಯ್ತಾ? 1000 ಗೊತ್ತಿದೆ. ಹಾಂ 1000 ಹಾಗೆ 800 ಮಾಡಿ. ಓಕೆ ಬನ್ನಿ. Hello. Sorry. So these three configurations or three groups we are going to create, like domestic group, import vendor group, and one-time vendor group. Then second configurations, or else you can create some more group also. Then second configurations create number ranges for vendor accounts. For vendor, what does it mean? For to maintain the vendor, assume that you are having so many vendors, we need to give some identification number. You need to give some identification number or unique number. For that purpose, we can create number ranges. For that purpose, we can create number ranges. So, like if I am going to create the domestic vendor, my range or my number should be start with 7 series. If I am going to create vendor, means end user used to create vendor, then the number should start with 6 series. For one-time vendor, that should be start with 1 series. Like that, we can maintain the number ranges. Again, it's purely depend upon the client's requirement. So here we are having two types of number ranges. Two types of number ranges. So one is internal number ranges. Internal number ranges, and second one is external number ranges. External number ranges. So what is internal number ranges? Number ranges which created by consultant, system will take that number automatically. So when automatically, while creating vendor, system will take automatically. But here in external number ranges, number ranges which maintained or which created by consultants, system will not take that numbers automatically while creating vendor end users need to give the number ranges manually. System will not take that number ranges, so that end user while creating the number ranges, he need to give the number ranges manually. So some maximum case we are going to use internal number ranges. Let system decide which number has to give to vendor. So maximum time we are going to use internal number ranges, but we are having option to create external number ranges also. Again, it is depend upon client's requirement. So on the basis of client requirements, we'll configure. Then third configuration is assign number ranges to vendor account group. Number ranges which I maintained here or we maintained here, that should be linked to this vendor group. And this is a 3 configurations as a consultant we need to maintain. Then by using this by using this group, end user used to create the vendor master record. Okay, so vendor creation of vendor master records. Either you can use MK01 or XK01. MK01 it is purely for MM level, XK01 is for centralized creation, right? Second one, if you want to modify or if you want to edit the vendor master data, then we are having the options, or that having the T codes. There you can go and you can modify or edit the vendor master data. Edit or modify the vendor master. We are having a T code called MK02 or XK02. Third one, just you want to see or view the vendor master data. Then there is another T code called XK03, where we can display the vendor masters. MK03 or XK03. XK03. Fine. This is regarding vendor. Any doubt is there or any query is there? Please let me know. Okay, if not, I'll close for today. We'll have a class tomorrow at same time.
Hello, sir. Sir, ಆತ್ಮಾನಂದ್ ಮಾತಾಡೋದು. ಸರ್ ಮಾರ್ನಿಂಗ್ ನಾನು ನಿಮ್ಗೊಂದು ಕ್ವಶನ್ ಕೇಳಿದ್ದು, ನಮಗೆ ಕಂಪ್ನಿ ಕ್ರಿಯೇಟ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ ಅದು ಸೇವ್ ಬಟನ್ ಒತ್ತಿದ ಮೇಲೆ ಸ್ಟ್ರಕ್ ಆಗ್ತದೆ ಬೇಕಾಗುತ್ತೆ.
ಹಾಂ ಸರ್, ಇಲ್ಲೋಗಿ ನೀವು ಕ್ರಿಯೇಟ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕಾದಾಗ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಕಾಣ್ತಾ ಇದೆಯಲ್ವಾ, ಸ್ಕ್ರೀನ್ ಕಾಣ್ತಾ ಇದೆಯಲ್ವಾ? ಓಕೆ, ಸೊ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ನೀವು ಡೇಟಾನ ಎಂಟ್ರ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀರಾ, ಲೈಕ್ ಏನೋ ಒಂದು ಡೇಟಾನ ಎಂಟ್ರ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀರಾ, ದೆನ್ ಸೇವ್ ಆಪ್ಷನ್ ಕೊಡ್ತೀರಾ ಅಲ್ವಾ? ಸೇವ್ ಕೊಟ್ಟಾಗ ನಿಮಗೆ ಈ ಥರ ಒಂದು ಸ್ಕ್ರೀನ್ ಬರುತ್ತೆ ಅಲ್ವಾ? ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಕ್ರಿಯೇಟ್ ರಿಕ್ವೆಸ್ಟ್ ಅಂತ ಇದೆ ಬಟನ್ ಅಲ್ವಾ? ಈ ವೈಟ್ ಸಿಂಬಲ್ ಇದೆ ನೋಡಿ. ಸೊ ಇನ್ ದಟ್ ಯು ನೀಡ್ ಟು ಕ್ಲಿಕ್ ಆನ್ ದಟ್. ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಡಿಸ್ಕ್ರಿಪ್ಷನ್ನಲ್ಲಿ ನೀವು ಯಾವ ಕಂಪ್ನಿ ಕ್ರಿಯೇಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾಯಿದ್ದೀರಾ, ಲೈಕ್ ಏನು ಕ್ರಿಯೇಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾಯಿದ್ದೀರಾ, ಕ್ರಿಯೇಷನ್ ಆಫ್ ಕಂಪ್ನಿ ಯಾವುದೋ ಒಂದು ABC ಅಂತ ಕೊಡಿ. ಯಾವ ಕ್ರಿಯೇಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀರಾ ಅದು ಕೊಡಿ, ಕೊಟ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಸೇವ್ ಮಾಡಿ, ಅದು ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಬರುತ್ತೆ ಅಷ್ಟೇ. ದೆನ್ ಎಂಟರ್, ದಟ್ಸ್ ಇಟ್. ಓಕೆ, ಕ್ರಿಯೇಟ್ ರಿಕ್ವೆಸ್ಟಲ್ಲಿ ನೀವು ಏನು ಕ್ರಿಯೇಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀರಾ ಅದನ್ನು ಮೆನ್ಷನ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ಸೇವ್ ಮಾಡಿ. ಓಕೆ, ಹಲೋ ಹಾಂ
ನಮ್ಮದು ವಿಡಿಯೋ ಬರ್ತಾ ಇಲ್ಲ, ಆಮೇಲೆ ವಿಡಿಯೋದಲ್ಲಿ
ಹಾಂ ಸರಿ ಸರಿ ಓಕೆ ಫೈನ್ ಥ್ಯಾಂಕ್ ಯು ಬಾಯ್.